The establishment swamp come to save the BBC and the House of Lords, and we talk about Philip Hammond and Ken Clarke getting a peerage. Hello everyone and welcome to another show. Today is going to be all about the establishments because it's kicking off. They are coming back after the obviously Brexit victory that we had and the People's Prime Minister, Boris Johnson's election and all that. Now it's time for the establishment to strike back, and it's happening because in this video, obviously over the last few weeks, there's a huge debate going on about the BBC, but also other stuff too, like the Supreme Court and the House of Lords. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about Philip Hammond and Ken Clarke, because Philip Hammond and Ken Clarke, the two Remainers and former Conservative MPs, are now going to be joining the House of Lords. They've been nominated to be joining the House of Lords, but we're going to talk about this properly towards the end of the video because I have a lot to say about this. Not happy about it, but so keep watching. But let's start with the BBC because obviously the debate that we have started, ordinary people out there on social media about the new campaign to get rid of the TV license, the TV tax, to privatise the BBC and make it more of a subscription base. And let it join the free market. And now the BBC senior teams and the press team have basically hit back by starting a new campaign to defend their own establishment. Yes, things like this. So the BBC press office tweeted this picture saying, "You may have seen this before, but it's good to be reminded of what you get for the TV license." So they say that they basically played with the numbers 25 years ago, £163 per household. Yet in bracket 2019 prices, you used to get these channels. Now on the right, this is today, £154 per household. You get more stuff from the BBC. Now literally look at the differences. How many of you actually watch and listen to all the options that they have? Because they're all nonsense. It's absolutely ridiculous. There's absolutely no value for money when it comes to the BBC. That's why there are a lot of memes going around the internet now. This is my favorite meme where they say, well, 25 years ago, £163. Yeah, you used to get things like this, Pride and Prejudice and everything else that we had, the original Top Gear. And now on the right, I mean, I can't even comment on this. This is the new BBC, the new woke BBC, the new pro-EU, woke, politically correct BBC. This is what you were getting now. So what's better, the past or the present? Now, one of the criticisms that the BBC get is the hidden bias, because it's not necessarily a bad thing that they're biased if they were a normal outlet. Nobody criticizes the Sun or Telegraph or the Mirror for being biased to the left or right, because they are openly biased. They say this is how we're leaning. We're leaning to the right, we're leaning to the left. And again, the same applies to America. To Fox News, for example, or then CNBC. Although CNBC and CNN try to pretend that they're neutral, but they're not. And that's the problem with the BBC, because they go out there and say we're a gift from God and we have to trust us. We tell the truth. And but that's the main issue, because we fund them and they pretend to be neutral, but they're not. And that's the problem I have. If they were going to be a private company and openly saying we are right wing or left wing or whatever, and fine, say whatever you want to say. This is your business, and if people want to watch it, they would. If not, then they can just refuse to watch it. Right now, everybody has to pay for it. Now, this is a segment about on Jeremy Vine's show. They debate about the BBC bias.
It would change it. It would change it fundamentally, and that is the problem.
But we're in a changed world.
Yes.
Netflix. People don't tune in to TV
No, but
way.
Netflix does not do news. Netflix provides drama. That's something completely different. We're talking about Netflix has taken over from Hollywood in a way. That they are providing drama. What we need is an accountable, valid, trustworthy, tell the truth.
But
no
BBC
no
News
fake
is not
news.
that, Nina. Watch the BBC News on Friday night, the night of Brexit, and there was a studio that was the EU flag, number one. Then there was the humiliation of Brexiteers up and down the country for being stupid. Then there was a BBC reporter asking about an all-white crowd and Western.
This You work for Rupert Murdoch, and Murdoch, that is.
But we're allowed because we're not asking the public to fund our newspaper. If they want to buy The Sun, the biggest selling newspaper in the country, they pay for it and they buy it.
I just want to say to you, the BBC has a standard of excellence.
And you don't think it's biased?
It is not biased. It's not biased. Laura Coonsberg...
You think the BBC represented the public during the Brexit referendum, and they knew where the public opinion was turning? And what about at the latest election? They knew that there was going to be...
At me. Stop shouting at me.
He's not shouting. Come on.
He is.
Are you shouting at me? See, this is exactly what happens when you debate with these people. The moment they know that they've lost the argument, they basically shift the whole debate into either on a personal level or say, "Are you shouting at me? How dare you?" So obviously she lost the argument because it was nonsense. Yes, the BBC, especially when it came to Brexit night and election in general, were biased, and the way they've been treating Brexiteers and Brexit voters is ridiculous, it's rude and insulting. But it's not the only thing we've seen when it comes to BBC bias. BBC Question Time. Yeah, so yesterday we had the BBC Question Time where the whole panel was just full of Remainers and one single Conservative. So we had Robert Buckland, who was the only Conservative on the panel. Obviously you had Stella Creasy, Ed Davey, and everybody else who were obviously more towards the left. But in terms of Brexit and Remain, every single one of these people, including Robert Buckland, is a Remainer. No Brexiteers can be found on this panel. So this is the BBC neutrality. But it gets worse, because that's not the only thing. Some of you may already know Kate Andrews. She's a massive advocate for the free market and economic, sound money, basically. She's been campaigning for NHS reform and for the BBC reform for a long time. Now, she was on Politics Live talking about the same topic, the BBC, and this is the argument she made. Now, watch what she actually says, and then I'll show you the reaction we got from the pro-establishment people.
The issue is reflective of the wider point that the BBC and its structure may not be fit for purpose anymore. Now, that doesn't mean that the BBC isn't providing some fantastic programs that people really want to watch and consume and listen to and the rest. It just means that in the age of Netflix and Amazon, maybe things need to change. And by the way, I don't think this means privatizing the BBC. Why aren't we talking about some kind of subscription service where it could be a cooperative or a style within the National Trust where subscribers own the BBC? I mean, you could have a really nice middle ground. I think often we paint the BBC debate as if we have to overthrow the whole thing, or we have to keep it exactly as is. Why not just update it?
Well, when you say overthrow the whole thing, let's have a look at this. This was from Nicky Morgan. It's in the Mail. The headline, BBC could end up defunct, just like Blockbuster Video. Is that how you see the potential future of the BBC?
Now, that's a fair point. Some of you may agree with her. Some of you who still like the BBC might disagree with her. But she didn't say anything too crazy. She just made her point. That's her point of view. And this is the reaction we got on social media from the pro-establishment people. Yes, one tweet said, she's like a beeping virus you can't shrug off. Another one said, she can beep off back to her own brainwashed USA. Another tweet said, I've already had my outburst about the beep 2 hours ago, just cool down. And then this one said, God, this awful woman should have been beeped at birth. The fact that she's given a platform to broadcast her right-wing propaganda is a disgrace. And then this one that says, I wish Kate Andrews would be deported from the UK. I can't stand her right-wing nut-job opinions. And finally, who at the BBC is beeping Kate Andrews? She's given a big platform to spout her drivel. Yeah, is that really necessary? Seriously. This is the sort of debate that we're having in this country now. This is the environment that we have created. But that's where we are now. Anyway, let's talk about the House of Lords. So we've been talking about the fact that the House of Lords is ridiculous, especially the political appointments. And the establishment is back to defend it. And not only that, but they're actually creating more political appointments, including Ken Clarke and Philip Hammond. Yes, both former Remainers and former Conservative MPs are now been nominated to join the House of Lords. Now, I have a massive problem with this. So most of us aren't happy with the way the House of Lords operates right now. There are a number of options what we could do with it. Some people say obviously just bring it down we could just have one chamber. But for me personally, you could have two options. Either just have one chamber, one parliament, one House of Commons, that's it. Or if we're going to have a second chamber, what I would do is you have to completely get rid of these people, completely reform it, completely change the structure. Firstly, stop their political appointments. You cannot just be nominated and being sent there. It's a very political move. That should stop. And what I would do is to have an independent body where they would go out there and, depending on each area, each profession, find experts and actually just appoint them on that basis. And then the House of Lords will have very limited powers in terms of scrutiny. So their job will be as experts to obviously scrutinize the bills and advise the House of Commons rather than block it or basically delay the bills. So minimize the powers even more than they have now, and stop the political appointments and all these peerages, because it's ridiculous. Now, we have to hold the government to account. Boris Johnson became Prime Minister as the People's Prime Minister, and there are people in the Conservative Party now who are pushing for reforms. So hopefully we could campaign on this channel and other channels out there, other activists, to make sure that, not only we reform the BBC, but also the House of Lords, because, this is supposed to be the People's Parliament, and the House of Lords does not represent the people. So we'll keep you guys posted. Obviously, if you are new to the channel, if you enjoy the content, make sure you subscribe and click on the bell next to it so you get notified. We have a daily show at 5:45 p.m. If you want to follow me on social media, Twitter and Instagram, you can find the details down here. You can stay up to date with all my usual daily rants on Brexit and current affairs. I'm Tousi, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with a new video.